The dishonesty news, mainstream media, Disney, had this doozy the other day. The DePap Mishap. Look at this major screw up. I wonder if whoever did responsible for this got fired. As you can see, this is not about climate change. They're showing pictures of DePap. Oh my God. President Biden saying his administration is investing $6 billion to help combat the effects of climate change. Obviously, the wrong images there. Obviously, jackass. Dishonesty, ABC News. Look at this shit. Yeah. The doom and gloom. Yeah, the world's ending. Yeah, prepare your ass for death and suffering and destruction, right? Yeah. The nightly news. The nightly lies from the mainstream media. Yeah. It's got to be certain things. They actually goofed on their narrative that time. I saved it just to look at how big a goof could be by the media, by the dishonesty news, dishonesty Disney news. Look at how royal the fuck up could be. He just rolled with it, even though he knew the tape didn't match up to his words. And so what are the mainstream narratives in the first place? Mainstream media narratives. Climate change is real, and it's going to be a danger to our planet if you don't get yourself an electric car. If you don't switch to solar panels, this world's going to end. If you don't fund Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party and the People's Republic of China, then, well, damn. You must be a villain then if you still use propane and gasoline-powered vehicles. You must be all evil people. Even though the elites and John Kerry and Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg use private jets all the time that are fueled by hydrocarbons, fossil fuels. Yeah, but we're the bad people for wanting to do the same things that the elites and the wealthy do. We're the bad guys, I guess. So what is the DePap Mishap? All right, so it's kind of a false flag type of event. It may not have started out as a false flag event. Basically, who was DePap, the perpetrator, apparently? He was a drifter, homeless man in San Francisco. I'm sure there's plenty of homeless people in San Francisco, in Gavin Newsom Gruesom's California, in American Psycho's California. Now, American Psycho only cleans up the streets of San Francisco and LA. Huh?
Did you check the computer?
For what?
Before I turned it off this morning, I did see Conway Twitty. I went,
oh Lord. Okay, all right. Okay. So, American Psycho Gavin Newsom will clean up the streets, homeless population from San Francisco when Xi Jinping, his overlord, visits. Basically like his Emperor Palpatine, if you will. I guess American Psycho is like a wannabe Darth Vader, or he's a wannabe Patrick Bateman, a wannabe Christian Bale, right? So we got a few wannabe presidents floating around out there, especially Gavin Gruesome Newsom, American Psycho, and Ron DeBlandness, in particular, wannabe president. They could try to counter Trump, but he's just way too strong. He leads them all in the polls, 10 points plus. Joe Biden, at least 6 to 10 points, if not more, in every single poll. So the Clintonians and the Obamites have a problem if they want to maintain control of the Senate and the executive branch. If they want to maintain power, Americans want to take away their power. So what are the elites going to do? What are the Clintons and the Obamas and the Bidens going to do when America does not want them anymore? The Democrat Party has also tried their race card with Obama, and the race card has expired. So has their female card basically expired. So their race and their brown and their Indian African currency has expired. So all those things have expired in the minds of the American populace. And of course, they have the Kamala Harris problem as well, is that she is one of the most unlikable vice presidents of all time. And Joseph R. Biden is one of the most hated presidents, one of the worst presidents in the almost 250 years of the American experimental constitutional democracy republic. So the DePap Mishap. So DePap was a San Francisco vagrant. I believe they showed him in a bus. I guess he lived out of a bus. And he was a street guy, I guess. I don't know what he did, a musician or poet or some kind of thing like that. So, he didn't really have an official job or career except just to be homeless, I suppose. He had the homeless career on the bus. He probably blended in well with the rows upon rows of homeless people in San Francisco, in the tent cities and the bus cities and probably the dilapidated parking lot crowd. So he probably fit in very, very well where he was at. Now, this story and this could have been an offset story. Paul Pelosi had been arrested for drunk driving, and they were trying to get that buried because the California is a Democrat state, and LA and and all the cities are run by liberals, and that try to protect liberal DAs and liberal judges that protect the Pelosi crime family. You're not really supposed to get rich being the Speaker of the House. Nancy Pelosi did it through insider Wall Street. Became a multimillionaire, the Pelosi family. They did not earn that money, not one red cent of it. Mostly insider trading, which is illegal, but they got away with it. Wall Street criminality. It's actually common now, the corruption. So it's not anything new or novel. They've been doing it for years, like decades. Well, if Nancy was so connected in the establishment order, then why didn't she run for president? She was also highly disliked by most of the country, maybe not by the bicoastal elites, but by the heartland, by most of the southern states, most of the central states. Many people knew that she was doing illegal insider Wall Street trading and criminal activity. So you just don't become that wealthy. You don't become a multimillionaire like Joe Biden unless you're doing Burisma deals, Ukraine deals, Chinese Communist Party, green energy deals, unless you're doing a lot of corrupt criminal activity. Public servants aren't supposed to be rich unless they made their money in the private sector already. So maybe this episode of the break and enter by the homeless man was done to garner sympathy for the Pelosi family before the 2022 Senate elections. Now, why would the Democrats fight so hard to keep the presidency and also the U.S. Senate? Well, if you control Congress, you're able to control the money, and they want to control all the money, okay? Because the money is the power. And so that's what they fight so hard all the time to control. If you are a member of Congress, you write the laws of the nation. If you're the president, you sign off on those laws. So if you have those two branches of government under your belt, you basically get to decide what happens. So that's why the Democrat Party fears to lose their power, because they will lose the money, they'll lose the budgets, they'll lose the taxpayer money. They'll lose the power and control to decide the fate of American destiny and the American people and Western civilization, basically, and world history itself. The Democrat Party has been using the technological control, social media, and also mainstream media, old school, the lettered networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, Microsoft, Bill Gates Network, and of course CNN. To manipulate and try to indoctrinate and brainwash American citizens into believing their certain agendas of Klaus Schwab in Davos, Switzerland, and this elite group of people like John Kerry and so forth. So, what are the narratives? Republicans, bad. All right. Populism, nationalism, bad. Green energy, good, because they profit from it. Okay. Wind turbines, good. Solar panel cells, good. Electric cars, EVs, excellent. Climate change is going to destroy us all. It's going to be the end of the world. The world's ending in 10 years, like stupid AOC, that hot Latina waitress with a nice booty. All right. So, Trump is bad. He's a threat to our order. Okay. Robert Fitzgerald Kennedy Jr. is a loon. All right. So you see what their narrative is. Okay, all the earthquakes, all the volcanoes, all the natural disasters, that's climate change. Yeah. And no, the Lahaina, Hawaii wildfires, they had nothing to do with that green lasers that were appearing over Hawaii, the Hawaiian Islands. Yeah, those Chinese green lasers had nothing to do. The Chinese people do not have a direct energy weapon, a laser weapon, to cause fire. Nope. There's no such thing as directed energy weapons. That does not exist. The government cannot control the weather. That's not possible through science. No, nothing is possible with science. You can't science anything. No, there's limits to science. And anything that's proposed that breaks the limits of science is just merely science fiction, and it's not real. Apparently, according to the U.S. government, so, and the Western governments or world governments in general, let's say. No, those green lasers had nothing to do with the Lahaina fire, the Hawaiian fires, the wildfires that devastated Lahaina. Even though those weapons tests were done like about, a month or so before. So it was reported as mysterious green lasers, but we all know what it is. Or we could at least speculate on what those lasers were. Chinese green lasers over devastating wildfires commence in Hawaii 2 months later. Coincidence? Paul Pelosi gets pulled over for drunk driving. He's given a free pass for his reckless behavior because, well, he was married to Nancy Pelosi, so he got a get out of jail free card for that. Because the Speaker of the House is third in line to the presidency, below the Vice President and the President. So, just in case anybody was unclear about that line of succession. I'm sure most people know that, but I hope you people have been paying attention and reading in your colleges or doing your research and your homework on the internet, right? So the DePap home invasion happened right before the 2022 Senate elections. So what was that used for? If it wasn't created a false flag event, let's say it happened organically, that Paul Pelosi was having a gay love tryst while his wife was away in Washington, trying to enrich herself and her family over that of American citizens, as usual. And so he was alone in the mansion in San Francisco, and then in the dead of night, past 2 a.m., after all the gay bars close in San Francisco, apparently one of these gender fluid or whatever, bisexual people and did a home invasion of Paul Pelosi's house. He says, "Who's there?" He calls the cops. They have the body cam video, and he's like, "Get away." I guess Paul Pelosi trying to calm Mr. DePap down, and then he has a hammer, and then he starts attacking Paul Pelosi to garner elder sympathy. It's a sympathy run. Okay. Oh, elderly. Look, the system was attacked by more. Now he wasn't a Trump or a MAGA hat. I'm sure if they would have staged it, they would have put him with a MAGA shirt and a MAGA hat, and they would have gave him a MAGA cape, and he would have been Ultra MAGA Mega Man. And Ultra MAGA Super Duper Expialidocious Power Ranger Teenage Mutant Ninja Man or some shit. Whatever the fuck Biden was rambling about. So the leftist media had a problem because this guy was in this gay love tryst with Paul Pelosi. He was San Francisco treat, a Bay Area resident, and even though the mainstream media, the leftist communist media, tries to spin it and say that he was entranced by right-wing talking points, they couldn't say that he had MAGA stuff or I don't even know if they could even go through, if he even had a computer, and find that he clicked on he liked a Trump post or something on Truth Social or something. So Nancy Pelosi never ran for president because she's more hated and more reviled even than Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton. The Democrat Party knew that Nancy Pelosi, although being a good servant of their party, a good old grandma, was not young or fit enough to actually hold the office and to actually gain most of the states of America. In the popular vote in the Electoral College. So they didn't run her because of age and other things. Well, you might say, well, why are they running Joe Biden? He's older than a dinosaur shit. Yeah, that's true. They're running him because he was the vice president of Barack Obama, which was their best bet to gain the presidency in 2020. So the Democrats did re-seize power, but it was in the backdrop of the coronavirus, COVID-19, the Chinese plague. It is very hard to believe that the husband of someone who's third in line to the succession of the presidency, or used to be at any rate, would not have better security than what they had. So a homeless man can just get a hammer and or a crowbar and break into your mansion and get access to the people inside, and just like that. No Secret Service, no government, no feds, no nothing, no security alarms, no cameras, no nothing. You know, it's just kind of like, how did he even get that close? Paul Pelosi himself, he doesn't have access to firearms, or he does not have whatever. He doesn't have a bat, or he doesn't have a samurai sword or something. He doesn't have a taser or a kitchen knife. All right. It's kind of like the mystery of January 6th. The U.S. Capitol doesn't have better security, which Nancy Pelosi gave the order to call off the National Guard that day for the Capitol because they needed their staged riot for all the news cameras. They have to stage events on camera to verify, to propel their agenda, because without footage of these evil MAGA Republican conservative white supremacists, then they have nothing unless they can prove it. So if they get footage on camera of like a MAGA riot, that gives them more legitimacy and also validity as a party and as an administration. So the Democrat Party's lifeblood is lies, deception, also false flag and staged events. Democrat Party knows that they cannot maintain power. They cannot seize power without a narrative that they control, without information control. They simply cannot retain power on their own popularity or the likability of their candidates. They just can't rely on that. The Democrats cannot rely on a real democracy, a real democratic process to achieve victory and to take control of the U.S. government. So what was the DePap? If it was not a staged event, if it was not an interrupted gay love tryst that turned violent because of drugs or alcohol or a combination of both, then what was it then? If it wasn't staged, was it a gay bisexual love tryst? Nancy was away. Was it a sexual escapade that night by Paul Pelosi, drunken Paul Pelosi? Because obviously the guy has a problem with the liquor. All right, that's kind of an understatement, but all right, let's say he was home invaded. They have the evidence, they have the video on ABC Dishonesty News or Disnegro News, whatever you want to call it. I just call it dishonesty. Sometimes I call it Disnegro News, ABC Disney Corporation. So. The DePap Mishap, I call it. What is this? It was really all about keeping the Democrats keeping the upper chamber of the U.S. Congress, which is the U.S. Senate. If you're in the U.S. Senate, you can control the money and the legislation that controls U.S. taxpayer dollars. Now, the Congress is bicameral, which consists of two chambers, the upper house, the Senate, and the lower house, which is supposed to be like the people's house, the House of Representatives. So they, of course, have to come into agreement on budgets. But the vice president, if it is a Democrat president and the Senate controls the vice president can break deadlock in the Senate by her vote. So basically, the Democrats can stop using a Democrat vice president to stop Republicans in the U.S. Senate. So if they have a majority. So the Republicans took back the U.S. Congress by at least, I think, 4 or 5 seats. So there's 435 members of the U.S. House of Representatives. Yeah. Okay. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Let's do it, baby. Okay. Drip, drip the oil. So let's say this was not a false flag attack, that this was not just to give sympathy for elderly people or sympathy for Democrats. It was a psychological operation. And the point of it was to make people feel sorry for this drunken, old, corrupt, criminal family, the Pelosi crime family. It's like gaining sympathy for robbers and criminals in the corrupt Washington, D.C. swamp and in Wall Street in Washington, in New York. So somehow they don't just want to have control of the money and power in the United States of America. They not only want to run every American citizen's life, all our lives, they also want us to feel sorry for them because they've gotten decrepit as because they have dementia. We're supposed to feel sympathy for that. And even if they're not presidents, they still want sympathy and they still want love and they still want to desire fame. They still desire the public sympathy for them. And that's not something they're always guaranteed to get, is public sympathy, just because they become geezers or decrepit old. And they can't thieve anymore. They can't rip off the American public anymore. And they're sad that they can't. They're like, damn, I wish I could do this for another 10 years. So maybe Joe Biden's like, man, I wish I was as young as Xi Jinping and Mr. Vladimir Putin at 70 years old. They could do 10 more years plus of damage, at least. So every human being, when they hit about 80 years old, the human body says, well, your time is up. Yeah, it's time to wrap it up. Time to prepare for the end. Time to prepare for the doldrums, for the lows of elderly life. Only thing to look forward to is maybe seeing your kids or your grandchildren. And that's about it. But besides that, 80 years old means it's over. The show is over for most people. Sure, you can run around, act like a fool, and go scuba diving and jump out of an airplane and all that stuff. But ultimately, it really doesn't matter. You can go be Buzz Aldrin hiking through the Andes or whatever the hell he's thinking of next. So this DePap Mishap, that's funny, they're trying to talk about their talking point of climate change. As if that's the greatest existential threat to mankind is climate change. No, it's not. The climate always changes, always will, because the Earth is a planet that rotates on an axis and revolves around a star, a fusion star, in a solar system, in a galaxy called the Milky Way. Oh, here's Potato Brain.
So that's about the extent to which we discussed it.
Potato Head, Joe Potato. It's gonna sound like mumbling from now on, probably. in the future of his presidency, it will get more and more difficult for him to make sense or for the American public to discern his speeches. Oh, yeah. So the media, the Democrats got what they wanted, control of the U.S. Senate again with the Kamala Harris tiebreaker. And that's one of the beautiful functions of the vice president is that they can break a gridlock in the U.S. Senate because they're the extra vote. So they can stop the other party from gaining a majority of control. So now the Democrats probably liked it better when they controlled the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate and the executive branch. They couldn't control the judicial branch because that's appointed by various presidents, and it's the Supreme Court justice is a position that is occupied for life, and the founders of the U.S. Constitution made the Supreme Court that way to be a check to the power of the Congress and the executive branch. So they made sure that this kind of hijacking the government, this kind of people trying to, and parties trying to take over the entire U.S. government for themselves would not go very far without being checked. So the Democrats were checked by the last president, Donald John Trump, a Republican, whom appointed a lot of conservative justices to make the conservatives a majority, 5-4. Even though Joe Biden tried to, when there was an open seat, again, during his presidency, he tried to he tried to make it more even and put Ketanji Brown Jackson in, another diversity hire. So another, Democrat install. But the Republicans, the conservatives, still have a 5-4 majority in the 9-member Supreme Court. So the judicial branch is doing wonderfully, and the Republicans, thankfully, took back the House of Representatives. So that's good. The Republicans should take back the White House and try to take back the U.S. Senate if they can in 2024. So at least take back the White House and then work on the Senate and maintaining the House of Representatives. So in Senate, it's a 6-year term. I believe it's unlimited too. They can get reelected and reelected as long as they live. Like Mitch McConnell and Nancy Pelosi, they can become lifelong politicians. Probably there should be a constitutional amendment that disbars people from being a senator after 6 years. That should be a rule. It's not currently because the people don't want to lose their control and power. They want to keep it going beyond 6 years. So the House of Representatives has it tougher because they have to be elected every 2 years. And so if they do a poor job, then the voters would throw them out after 2 years. And I guess they could run for as long as they keep getting voted for, like Sheila Jackson Lee of Houston. She's gotten out of the Congress and now she's trying to become the mayor of Houston. And so, but she's a really elder statesman, black lady, and she maybe could, but she has some very stiff competition. So Houston might say, well, we've had a black mayor for whatever, how long, and they might say, we might have to switch back to Whitey. So that could happen, obviously. Even though most major cities have become liberal and Democrat-led and run, it doesn't mean they will always win every single mayoral race. So yeah. The end of the Pelosi's though. Yeah, they're too old, and they're too, you know, they've Nancy Pelosi has had a long, long, long career. She's like my grandmother's age, 83 or 84 years old. There's not much time left. So she can speak out against Trump, or she can, try to call out the Republicans are the problem, and she could try to she can go to the Congress and have access to Congress, and maybe cheer on a Democrat senator or representative, but she really can't affect any kind of legislation. Really, she doesn't have the power or the authority to do that anymore. She can just be a Democrat spokeswoman, basically, at this point. She's not like former President Barack Hussein Obama, who really secretly calls the shots of the Biden-Harris administration. Still has power from his mansion in Martha's Vineyard, along with the rest of the liberal global world order system and society. So, anyway, well, that's the DePap Mishap. The media really didn't know what to do except to spin it, but they couldn't spin it into a MAGA hat wearing, they tried to say right wing conspiracy theories, okay, but they tried to say that he was agreed with conservative conspiracy theories and stuff like that. They didn't exactly get what they want. They got Paul Pelosi out of the drunk driving and the alcoholic situation, an old man who's just getting wasted all the time. They got out of that. They got out of the gay love tryst and the gay bars. They got out of the bisexual or maybe homosexual. They got out of the woods in terms of that. The Democrats did, but they didn't get what they wanted. They didn't get a January 6th. They didn't get quite the psychological brainwashing agenda operation that they normally strive for, because this could have been not pre-planned. This could have been it happened late at night. Probably drinking was involved, and drugs. It looks like he was at a gay bar and DePap was there. Or who knows? Maybe this guy goes to homeless encampments and just for fun leaves his gated mansion community. Maybe he looks for young males in the homeless encampment. Who knows how he gets his kicks, what his particular, sexual fetishes are, or whatever. Whatever his kind of kink, it could be really, wild. So he dodged not just a hammer that night, but they were able to spin the story into elder Democrat Party sympathy, which it's like sympathy for the devil, Rolling Stones. So it's like having sympathy for evil, and they actually got what they wanted because they were able to use the mainstream media to achieve their goal. And DePap was sentenced to multiple life sentences for his, I guess they gave him attempted murder, I suppose, since he bludgeoned Paul Pelosi or with his hammer attack, as people saw in the video. But remember, the attack kind of happens off screen, though. If you look at the video, it's like he's like behind the door, or behind the sliding glass, or the that balcony door. He's kind of hidden when he's like, ah. I mean, who knows if he was just acting or something behind that door. I mean, I know they did pictures and stuff, but come on. They could have staged that too. But But maybe they didn't stage it. Maybe it wasn't a false flag psychological operation after all. I'm kind of suspicious when the government is about to lose control and some sort of crisis happens now. I think a lot of Americans are. They're like, where did this crisis come from? Ooh, this is happening 6 months to a month before or a year before the election. COVID-19 was released at the tail end of 2019. Nobody else finds that suspicious? A year before a major presidential election, a Chinese plague is released. Nobody else thinks that's kind of suspicious, fishy. So I'm definitely on the lookout for events that happen before major, especially congressional and Senate elections, and right before major gubernatorial elections, before congressional elections, especially presidential elections. So, yeah, who knows what the deep state does? You know what I mean? That's kind of like their hidden hand in the dark is their greatest strength because it's a mystery to most people. The hidden hand's greatest strength is staying hidden. So I probably won't hear much about DePap ever again unless he wants to, unless the Democrats are trying to get elected and they need him to, for a reduced sentence, or maybe he gets nothing. Maybe he just gets, I don't know, maybe he gets better food, or maybe he'll say, oh yeah, I got caught up in MAGA conspiracy theories and don't vote for the Republicans because only vote Democrat for the next election. Maybe they'll try to make him write a book or something. How he got lured into the right wing world of conspiracy theories or something. It's gonna be some BS, right? So if we ever do hear about DePap ever again, the story of the DePap Mishap, the attack on drunken old elderly Paul Pelosi, in his mansion in San Francisco, from ill-begotten gains, illegal Wall Street insider trading, and other corrupt deals that the Democrats have been doing over the years, using their position, they're pimping out, they're whoring out their power and influence, and their position to gain financial gain. Obviously, by now, that's evident with the Biden crime family. That's evident with the Clinton crime family. That's evident with the Obama crime family, and so on. So the Pelosi crime family as well. Just crime family, crime family, crime family. So somewhere along the corruption line, those that were politicians, they decided in the Democrat Party a long time ago, and members of the Uniparty and the deep state, they decided in the military, industrial, pharmaceutical, technological media complex, they decided that, hey, instead of serving the people, why don't we serve ourselves? And they decided long ago, hey, I have an idea, instead of writing laws that are good for the country and the people and enhance the lives of the people and our taxpayers and people, the American people, why don't we make laws that are good for us at the top? And so that's why America has been in decline for the last 20 years, or maybe even going on 40 years, because of that particular decision by the elites. So if we do hear from DePap again, it will be trying to get Pelosi Democrat sympathy before is trying to get elder sympathy before Joe Biden apparently tries to get reelected, I suppose, unless he's swapped out real quick by Gavin Gruesome Newsom, American Psycho, or whatever they're planning. Whatever the Democrat Party and the Obamites are planning, they had better do it quick before the Democratic National Convention is coming up, quite soon. And so, if they plan to swap out old Joe, then they have to do it quick. So they have to get a replacement for Joe, and I guess Gavin Newsom would be his likely successor. Could I don't think he has a real chance of winning. I think he's mistrusted just like the Clintons, except he's new. He's Newsome. So maybe they're hoping that people haven't been paying attention and they just say, oh, it looks like Christian Bale, vote for him. He looks like Gordon Gekko from Wall Street with slick back hair. Oh, it's a slick used car salesman. He can speak good. He looks good. Maybe some people will vote that way. So, if we do hear from Mr. Homeless DePap from the federal institution, it will be about how right before Democrat election, how he was sucked into the Trump MAGA conspiracy theories, and he was deceived by the MAGAs and the right wingers, and they're going to call them extremists or something like that. So. The Democrat Party is never going to tell the American public that these 75 million Trump voters are just ordinary people. So at least half the country or more, they're never going to admit that that's just common people, normal, everyday, workaday people. And so the elites do not want to acknowledge that these are the people from the grassroots challenging their power structure and challenging their liberal global world order. And but it would be quite evident again in the 2024 election as Trump leads most of the polls. I don't believe that Robert Kennedy Jr., I didn't say it last night, I don't think he'll be assassinated because that's too obvious. They're not going to attempt to hurt Trump physically because he's protected by the Secret Service and he's a former president. And I know that's never stopped them before with JFK and Robert Fitzgerald Kennedy Jr.'s father. I know that never stopped them with John Lennon. That never stopped them with other enemies of the government. But that never stopped them from taking out Jeffrey Epstein. However, Trump, there are things that they will not do because they are too obvious. So the deep state can't do assassinations unless they're sure that they can get away with it and cloud it in a shroud of clandestine mystery. So, anyways, well, that's the DePap mishap in a nutshell, kind of broken down. Was it staged? Was it real? When he gets hit, it's kind of out of frame. Maybe they say, well, we don't want to show violence on our program. Close up, but it was just a bad angle. He wasn't in frame. That's very true. All right, that's the DePap mishap in a nutshell, as I said again, and that is all. I'm just kind of wondering what the Democrat Party will do to try to stay in power in the next 6 months to a year before the major 2024 election. So everybody keep their eyes open, American citizens. Keep your eyes on world events and events in this nation. We'll see. Joe Biden turns 81. He'll try to be elected at 82 years old. But I think he's either going to get swapped out or his health is going to fail, physically or mentally or both. Or he's going to get defeated, get his ass kicked by Donald Trump because the people are sick of the corruption and the deceptions, and people want control of their own country back from this ruinous and evil cabal that has seized control of it over the years.